And we're live. Hello, friends. This is Office Hours. I know it's been a while since I've done Office Hours. Just been traveling on Fridays or doing a podcast on Friday, or various things have come up on Fridays during Office Hours. But we can have Office Hours today. And we're live. Hello, there we go. Just got that going. So the way that Office Hours works, I will share my screen. Here we go. The way Office Hours works is you can either join the Zoom call and ask your question live on Zoom, or where is this? There it is. Or you can ask your question on the Office Hours channel and I will answer. Starting Office Hours now. So yeah, you can join that, and yeah, Office Hours, it's happening. The bot made that automatically. Pretty cool. So yes, Office Hours happening now. Okay, so typically I recommend asking the question so I could answer, because if Matt isn't there right now, then we'll miss the Office Hours opportunity. So anyway, nobody's on the call yet, probably because I didn't give any indication that I would be available today. But yeah, I will get these questions, and then maybe we'll get some people on the call. If you join the call, you can feel free to interrupt me and stuff. I think this is where we're at. Yassine. So, and it's been a while. This is all the way back in September. So I'm going to reply and say answering this now. Okay. So in the Advanced React Patterns workshop exercise 5 and 6, why do we use this? Oh yeah, this is a great question. So let's all get on the same page. Advanced React Patterns and React Patterns. So just so we're all on the same page, this is the exercise we're talking about with the state reducer. And so we've got this back and forth, yada, yada. In the final version, it's do, and then it stops, and then you have to hit reset. So that reset is what's triggering this code that we're talking about here. And so that was on 5, yeah. So let's just look at this right here. Ref, yeah, here it is. Okay. Right here, this use toggle, this is what is being discussed. And so the question is, let me just double check, but I'm pretty sure I know the question. Why is it? Yeah, okay, so the question is, why am I getting that initial state as a ref instead of just saying initial state equals on : initial on? What's the benefit of the use ref? So the benefit of the use ref is so we can have a stable reference to the initial value, to this value. You notice that we're never changing the current value of this object, we're only accessing it. So what that means is use toggle will have access to what this this on value was on the like as soon as it was rendered, and nothing in the world could change it. So if use toggle is being used improperly, then somebody could change what the initial on is. And so when we say, actually, when we call this reset, and the reset right here to pass the initial state, that initial state will actually be wrong. It will be whatever they changed it to, which is something we want to disallow with this particular API. And so what we're making that possible by saying, if somebody were to change the initial on, we don't care because we are just using the ref. The fact that this initial on is getting passed to this ref in subsequent renders of our component that's using this hook, and the fact that it's getting changed doesn't actually make a difference. We ignore it because we just got the initial value by virtue of how a use ref works. So there's no way to change it from the initial value, even if somebody passes us a different a different value for initial on a subsequent render. And so that's why we're using a ref. It's just, the idea is I want a stable value here that cannot change. It will never change. So there you go. Hopefully that answers your question. And had a follow-up question. While we're at it, can you please help me understand this piece below? This is PR in downshift from a couple of years back. Woo! Sends me on a whirl every time. I took a look trying to understand what's going on, and why specifically, why is there a need for a ref.current equals val? So we have this use latest ref. Technically, it's not a concurrent save. Interesting. I probably did I write this? No, I don't think I wrote this because I maintained downshift before hooks were a thing. So somebody else wrote this. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, yeah. Somebody is at my house replacing my furnace, which is broken. So we slept last night without a furnace running. Luckily, it wasn't too cold, but next week it's going to get really cold. So really glad. This is what you get for buying a house, right? Like toward its tail end of all of its appliances life spans, is you have to replace all those appliances. So that's what's happening right now. So I may get called away for a second to go deal with that. Okay, so yeah, so what's going on here is we're passing, we're making sure that we have access to a value that is always, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, it's not just what I mentioned earlier, it's something else too. 1 second. Okay, yeah, so what this is doing is it's letting us have a ref that will the current value will always be set to whatever the latest value is. And so what this allows you to do is to access that that current value inside of a callback, inside of a use effect, inside of any asynchrony thing, and just always have the latest version rather than having to a closure closing over that. This is actually poorly implemented use latest ref because it's not concurrent safe. Places the hook is used is to support memoizing callbacks, which would be called during render. So that's why it's implemented the way that it is because we can't wait. The proper way to implement this hook would be to put this line inside of a use effect, but they're not doing that because this ref.current needs to be called during render. You know what? This looks like something I would write. I don't think that I did this, but it looks like words that I would write. So maybe this was from me, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. I don't think I did anything with downshift with hooks, but maybe. Anyway, so that's what that is all about. Normally, the way that you would implement this is inside of a use effect. But I do have a blog post about this on Epic React articles. It's the latest ref pattern. So you can take a look at that and hopefully that helps. All right, Nick, what's up? Answering this now, finally. Actually, oh, Nick, you're here. Hey there, man. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. It's been a while. Sorry, it took me forever to get to your question.
No worries. Where have you been?
Is it still relevant, or do you have more context you want to add or anything?
Yeah, it's definitely still relevant. I mean, I've been going down the whole rabbit hole of 3D computer graphics, and somehow I ended up at going back to learn linear algebra. So there's a lot
Wow.
there to know.
I'm not sure I can help you, Nick, if we're talking about linear algebra and stuff.
Well,
But
I think like we're still using this VTK library for now, and there is this like React wrapper that we're using that's kind of built on top of it. But I kind of get the sense that they've built this React wrapper for like a very specific client because it doesn't really seem to be broad enough for like our use cases. So we're like attaching a ref to this library, like passing it in to the view, and then we're basically accessing like a lot of the underlying VTK JS methods from that ref.
oh, so it's a class component.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess like my question, like, we're kind of at the point now where it's like, do we keep using this React VTK.js library, or do we kind of write our own wrapper for React? But I think like just kind of how we structure that. I'm curious if you have any insight of how you would maybe structure that in the code. And
yeah, well, without spending a ton of time diving really deep into the implementation and things, my first thought is, when you've got a library that was pretty clearly written for a specific use case, and yours is like sidecar to that or something, and the maintainers aren't really interested in expanding the scope of those use cases that it supports, in that case, I would recommend forking, and just taking ownership over it. You'd be probably happier to doing that, and that way, like, instead of accessing things that they never expected anybody to access, and so they can change on a whim, you can expose those things yourself with a proper API, and not worry about people changing things. And then, like, if you are really, like, if there's a lot of active development on it or something, you're really concerned, then you just watch the repo and keep up with the changes that they're making. Probably it feels like it would be a little bit more work to do this, but if it really is a situation where it's very specific to their use case, and you're just like trying to monkey patch things to make it work, probably is not, at the end of the day, it would be less work to just own it yourself. I'm not sure how useful it would be for me to dive in to get more context around this specific library. That just seems like that's probably the way to go.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. If, like, do you mind looking at one? Like, I think I posted a file in there of just how this create VTK file.
Okay.
Yeah, that one there. I was just kind of curious, like, if
that doesn't have an extension on it, so I just changed it to .js.
Okay.
But it doesn't open.
Oh, strange.
Yeah. Could be my fault, because it's like been up so long. They decided to change it to a virus or something.
I might have uploaded it wrong. I'd have to go and find it again. Yeah, it was just kind of around. Actually, maybe, yeah, you can move on. I can go and see if I can find that file. If
okay, sure.
Kind of take a quick look at it. It was just kind of around like how to like structure a file, where, like, if you're building up, say, like a list of different functionality, and like having a difficult time kind of code splitting it, because like it's on, like, a lot of those methods are on the ref that we're passing in, right? So we're kind of accessing like different functions that are on that. Yeah, sorry, it'd probably be easier to try to show it than explain it.
All right, yeah, if you can find it, then
okay,
feel free to jump in again.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure. Hey, Akash, give me just 1 second, really quick. It's good to see you again. 1 sec. So in addition to having somebody in my house replacing the furnace, my wife is out somewhere, and my son complained of a stomach ache this morning, and so he's at home. And so, yeah, just making sure everything's okay. So yeah, what's up, Akash?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
So I hope all of your recent conferences are done and you are at your home. Like, it's now
I'm at home right now, but I'm going to a conference next week. So.
Yeah. So yeah, Ken. So basically today I joined to ask a question which I forgot to ask during our React India conference. So yeah, so basically it's not a technical question. So my question is, so we have seen folks at Remix and Universal working on the crazy stuff they are doing in the web ecosystem. So I have total of 4 years of experience. So my question is, maybe it's a silly question, but what it takes to get a job at Versal and or at Remix to work with those guys? So what will it take to work with them? Yeah.
So I can't speak to either of the companies, honestly, because I don't work at either one of them now. I did work at Remix, but no longer, and I've never worked at Versal. But I can give you a couple of tips that would apply to any company, and especially to a company like Remix and Versal that have a lot of open source stuff. So the best way, and something that I've seen happen a lot, is to be very, very involved in one or more of the projects that they're working on. So you get in there in the GitHub issues. At the very beginning, it's really hard to like solve their big problems, but with the GitHub issues, you can reproduce bugs that people have submitted, and you can just answer questions, just be in their face all the time in a positive way, where every time they see your avatar, they're like, oh, great, Akash is here. Like he can take care of this. And pretty soon they get so used to seeing you that they want to like see you all the time and hire you. So I've seen that work. I know that when I was at Remix, we were hesitant to hire anybody. Well, at least Michael was hesitant to hire anybody outside of the time zone because of those issues, but I know Versal is of sufficient size that that's probably not as much an issue, and maybe like Remix could be past that now too. I don't know, but yeah, like you just get in their face all the time where they're excited to see you, and develop a rapport with the people who you would be working with, and then I mean that. Part of me is like, that's a little exploitive, like taking your free work. But I've seen that work a lot, actually, at various companies. And so if you're really dedicated or you really want to work somewhere, that's a good way to stand out. And of course, like always check for job recs and stuff and apply. But yeah, the best way to stand out would be to participate in the projects that you would be working on if you work there.
But the job profiles which they ask is, I don't think that they ask normal, front-end engineers or that stuff. They always ask for, I guess principal engineers or some term I'm forgetting what they ask for. They don't ask for a normal UI engineer, I would say, which, other companies have position with.
Yeah. So they probably have quote unquote needs for a normal UI engineer. It's hard to run a company, especially of the size of Versal, and not need somebody who can do the normal UI engineer stuff. Because if you don't have anybody doing that, then your principal engineer is taking their time building the normal UI engineer stuff, where they could actually spend their time working on higher impact things. So like every company has needs like that. They may not have as many job recs because they may have all those needs satisfied right now, and it is really hard to hire the principal engineers, and so they're probably constantly looking for those. But yeah, I think if like I said, the best advice I can give you is just to be in their face in a positive way as much as possible.
Got it. Yeah. So basically, currently I'm seeing remixsoftware.applytojob.com. So Remix careers page. So they have the opening for senior software engineer frameworks and senior software engineer infrastructure. So a guy like me who has worked on front end only, so I don't think that I pass this criteria. But yeah, the way you said is to be in their face all the time so that they remember, I am something who is always looking at some of the issues and helping out them. Yeah, that's a good way to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of work. It is. I wish I had a better answer for you. But yeah, just being in their face in a positive way. So every time they see you, they're happy.
Makes sense.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, if anybody else is in the Zoom, feel free to jump in.
Yeah.
Hey there.
Kent, hi.
Hi.
Do you hear me well? Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was where you are.
Oh, this is my cool
I'm just
background.
joking.
So I have a follow-up question to my previous question. I just posted it in Office Hours channel. This is a link to a question. And you said that that fallback won't be handled. So the question is, which fallback, error or
This one right here.
suspense fallback?
Yeah. Since this is rendered as a parent, or since the suspense is a parent of the error boundary, then the error boundary can't handle errors that happen inside this fallback.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And maybe that's okay. Like, just make sure you don't have errors in the fallback. Fallbacks are typically pretty simple anyway. So like maybe you're okay, but if all other things are equal, you may as well just swap those.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. That was it.
Cool. Good. I'm always happy to when the questions are fast for me to answer. Okay, I'm going to answer this now from Barlow. Found a blog post helped answer a question before I asked. Hooray. Coworker. Oh, wait. So I think, was that an edit? It doesn't look like this has been edited. Okay. Normally works in the backend. Brought up his discomfort with the speed of our UI tests. Yeah, that can be a problem. The bulk of our UI tests are written right below the entry point file, typically index test TS. Our longest test run takes about 18 minutes. I hope that's not a single test, unless that's ETE, which still, that's too long. CI/CD pipeline, and that repo is going through a large refactor, and we're currently supporting 2 versions of the app and 2x the amount of typical tests. He proposed writing smaller, more component-focused tests, and not rendering the DOM would increase speed, so we wouldn't have to render the entire app for every test. I argue that smaller component tests, especially without rendering the DOM, would go against rate testing library guiding principles to test your app the way the user would use it. How would you combat the speed argument? Do you have it? Okay, so yes, I definitely have thoughts on this. It doesn't matter how fast your tests run if they don't help you answer the question, does my app work? So make sure that I can appreciate the speed argument, and I have some tips of how you can speed things up, but just keep in mind that in your pursuit for ultimate speedy, fast tests, you're not throwing out the confidence that tests are supposed to give you anyway. And a good read for that is, do my refactors or do my tests help my refactors, or do I have to rewrite my tests when I refactor? If you're rewriting your tests when you refactor, then what was the test for? It was for nothing. It was for like feeling good about yourself, that like, yeah, I wrote a test. Hooray, I'm awesome. No, that's not what it's for. It's for being confident that changes that you make will not break existing code. So the speed is one aspect, or one thing you should be focusing on when you're testing, but it is 100% not the most important thing. And I would absolutely take 18 minutes to be confident I didn't break anything over just feeling good that my tests take 10 seconds or whatever, but not actually being confident. Now, that said, if all of your tests are written as integration, you're rendering the entire app, you might be over testing. So I will sometimes do, I'll occasionally do edge case testing with integration tests and do flows, but mostly I reserve the like big flows for end-to-end tests, like user well, I'll test login and registration as like separate tests and as end-to-end tests, and then I will have a utility that just logs the user in instantly, and then proceed from that to do typical user flows. So a logged in user goes to the product page, adds an item to their cart, increases the quantity, goes to the checkout page, check that the quantity and totals are correct, and then goes to recommended items and adds another item to their cart, and then goes to their cart again, removes one of the items, and then checks out. And you're probably going to mock out the actual processing of the payment, but everything should be mostly correct. But that's like a typical user flow. Integration test is more vertical, where it's like an individual page, and just testing that. And then for like, there are probably individual components on that page, like reusable components that have a lot of different edge cases. I'm going to cover that with lower level tests. I'm calling those component tests because they're not quite unit tests, but they're not quite integration tests either. So they're like, yeah, I don't think I want to ever canonize that or anything, but that's kind of what I call it, is component level tests. And so, yeah, for those highly reusable things, I'm going to test those as component level tests rather than rendering the entire app and testing all the permutations of that. And then unit tests for the pure functions and stuff that have a lot of different edge cases and complex logic. And yeah, so a couple of other thoughts on speed. If your tests are slow, then make sure that your app is not slow. Maybe your tests are actually telling you something and your app is actually slow and you need to make things faster. So I would do a performance audit of your app, of like specific things that you think might be slow. Pull up the dev tools, run the performance measurement tool, and perform a couple interactions. Make sure you're throttling on, slowing down the machine and everything, so you can actually see the things that are really harmful to users on lower end devices. And then, yeah, and then maybe you can actually speed up your app, and then your tests will be faster. So that's one thing. Another thing is, well, and actually, I also need to say, not rendering to the DOM, super bad idea. If what you're doing is rendering something to the DOM so the user can click on the button, you have to render to the DOM. Just I don't know how you're going to avoid this, avoid rendering to the DOM. You'd have to like mock out React, or you'd use Enzyme and shallow rendering, or React and shallow rendering. Super, super bad idea. You already referenced this blog post. Do not do it under any. I've never, ever thought that was a good idea. It's a terrible idea. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I explain why in that blog post. Sorry, give me just 1 second. Okay. So another thing that you can do to speed it up is in CI/CD, those machines are typically not super fast. And what Jest will do, I'm guessing you're using Jest. What Jest is going to do is it takes all of your test files and it runs a bunch of them in parallel. Normally like 5 to 8, I think, is the default of tests running in parallel. Lots of CI/CD machines can't take that. And so there is a flag with Jest that is called run in band, where it just runs everything one at a time in a single process. So that actually can speed things up quite a bit in some situations. And then what was the other thing? Oh yeah, JS DOM is slow. It really just is. It's very difficult with the funding that they have, which I think is none, to keep up with browsers. So a real browser is going to run the test faster. The problem with the real browser is getting the browser up and running, because that takes a long time. Also, the tooling for that, as far as like running tests that are relevant to the changes you've made and stuff like that, are still not quite as good as what Jest can do for you. But yeah, if you have some component like a data table or something that's really DOM heavy, and especially if it's doing a lot of DOM measurement and stuff, yeah, you're gonna probably want to test that in a real browser. Personally, I'm actually starting to lean more toward Playwright than Cypress, but if you're already using Cypress, it's still a great tool, and so you can totally use that and benefit from that. So that's another option or another thing to consider. And then also, JS DOM is relatively slow. There's a newer implementation of the DOM in Node called Happy DOM that is supposed to be faster, and I think it's the default with vtest, which also is supposed to be faster than Jest. So, and it's supposed to be Jest compatible as well. I played around with it a little bit and I'm impressed. So you could take a look at those options too. So there are things that we can do to deal with the speed problem, but remember, speed is not the goal, confidence is. And if you're trading confidence for speed, then just delete all the tests. That no tests run way faster than any tests. So if all you care about is speed, then don't have any tests. If you're focused so much on speed, that you're willing to drop a ton of confidence, then yeah, stop testing. Okay, my wife is calling me. I'll be right back. This should be quick. Okay, and we're back. All right, hopefully that answers your question. Good luck. Anthony, hello. Let me say answering this now. Okay, trying to delve a little deeper with React and increase my understanding. I've completed your Epic React standard course, which has really helped. Hooray! Use effect is bothering me somewhat. You're not alone. Now that I've started to understand what use effect is primarily for, handling side effects in a component. My question is fetching data in a component a side effect? I've often seen it done in a side effect, and I have used this method myself, but if the data is required for rendering the component, is it really a side effect? I have started experimenting with moving data fetching out of use effect, and if I only need to fetch the data when the component first mounts, tracking the fetch using useRef. I know that libraries like React Query can remove this uncertainty and take care of my queries, but just wondered if you had opinions on this. Thanks. So Anthony, I think you may be misunderstanding what side effect means. So if I understand your understanding correctly, you're thinking that a side effect is like a thing that happens that's not actually what the purpose of the component is, like what this component is for. That is not what a side effect is. So when side effect, the concept comes from functional programming, where you have a function that takes some inputs and returns some output, and doesn't do anything outside of itself. So it's not going to be referencing some global state. It's not going to be, and that global state could be like date.now or math.random. So like any of that. So in so doing, we get this property of the inputs are the same inputs always give us the same outputs, and our inputs aren't going to change. We're also not going to be changing anything outside of this function. So like if you had a counter that counted every time the function was called, technically that function is not pure from a functional programming standpoint. So in React, our React components are not pure. But however, they are what is called idempotent, which I still am figuring out how to explain. But the end result of that property of idempotency is that you can call the function many, many times, and it does not change with the same output, and it should not change the result. So yeah, that's the idea. So it's technically not pure, but still has this property where you can call it, and the number of times it's called shouldn't impact the result. That's the idea. So that's why we can say side effects go into use effects, because we still don't want to have any side effects in our render body. And the reason for this is because your function is going to be called multiple times. Now, sometimes you need to hack around this. You need to work around it because we're working in the real world, and the real world is messy. And so for that reason, use ref even exists, so that you can do weird things like this. But I strongly advise against using that method for doing things like data fetches, because 100% data fetches are side effects. Now, if you are using, if you're doing a client rendered app with a Create React app or similar, then I strongly advise the use of React Query or React Router loaders and actions. You actually might be able to get by with just React Router loader and actions, and then maybe use React Query for caching. So yeah, I would strongly advise, even outside of all of this, I just really advise you use those tools for your data fetching needs. But if you don't, then 100% your data fetching should happen in use effects, because it's doing otherwise is not concurrent mode safe or concurrent feature safe. And the bugs that you can experience in that world are very difficult to reproduce, almost impossible to reproduce, and very confusing also. So you waste a lot of time. So yes, side effects include data fetching, and use effect is where you do that. So hopefully that helps. Is that an L or an I? I'm going to go with L, Lestera. Answering this now. Okay. I've been working through React Fundamentals course and actually found React DOM, create root render element, works the same as React DOM. Oh yeah, okay. I think somebody may have actually answered this question for you. So the reason that this works, and actually I think it only works outside of strict mode. So this won't work in a typical app. Maybe not. Here, hold on a second. Let's see. How do I? Yeah. Let me just find all the elements on the page that have an ID. There we go. And what is the ID? Does anybody see? Yeah, there it is. Menu. Oh, well, I won't be able to find that very easily. Okay. Window dot, or there we go. So I can access anything on a window that has or by its ID. So it becomes a global variable on window. I think in strict mode, or in JavaScript strict mode, it will not be just global, so you'd have to say window. But in our situation, we are not in strict mode. And so for that reason, you can actually just say root. Don't do that. It's not a good idea. You definitely want to go with, and you don't want to do the window dot root either. Just feels wrong to me to rely on that kind of odd behavior with the way that the browser just takes all ID elements and sticks it on the window. So I would 100% recommend doing or accessing elements through get element by ID or query selector, rather than this funny global thing that it's doing. So hopefully that helps answer your question. And yeah, okay, great. Cool. You say answering this now. And we're on October 8th. So yeah, we're working our way through. Working on a project using React and Evergreen UI. We'll pull that up. For components and layout. Initially, our project was targeted only desktop devices, but our plans have changed, and we wanted to make our existing website responsive. Probably a good call. Evergreen UI does not support responsive layout. Yikes, that's not good. I have come with the idea of migrating our existing project to Tailwind. Hooray. And with this process, we will get rid of Evergreen UI completely. Probably a good idea. This whole process will be very time consuming, understandable. I wanted to know your perspective on this issue. If you would have faced this situation, then what will be your procedure in this process? So the fact that this UI library does not support responsive layouts is a problem. Yeah, I can see maybe that doesn't. Yeah, well, yeah, they definitely don't think about mobile. So yeah, I would advise against using this for that reason. Because they're ignoring an enormous segment of the web world. So yeah, I would get off of this for sure. Getting onto Tailwind, I also recommend. Tailwind is amazing. And if you want like something with pre-built components, then Tailwind UI seems like a pretty good idea. It is. You spend your money on it, but you also bought your laptop and you also buy software, programs and stuff sometimes too. I think it's okay to spend money on software. But if you don't want to, I'm not like shilling Tailwind. I don't get any kickbacks for that. If that's not what you want, then there are other UI libraries that you can use that are very lightly styled that you can apply Tailwind classes to. My favorite is Reach UI. By Ryan Florence, and lots of really great components in here that are very lightly styled, only styled enough to accomplish the purpose, and then you can style it however you like on top of that. So that's what I would suggest. Good luck. Yeah, I know it's going to be a lot of work, but and very time consuming, but probably well worth it. And especially if you decided you wanted to make your website responsive. Evergreen UI doesn't support responsive, so that should be the answer right there. Okay, Johan, answering this now. And coming back up. With a couple of friends, we're working on a project that uses Remix and MDX Bundler. Oh, cool. Basically, it's like a blog that would read an MDX file in the file system when given a given route is hit, except the MDX is split into multiple files that can be seen as sections of the content. Interesting. Most of the time when the user lands on the page, we only have to load the first section in the route loader, render it on the client, along with the button to get the next section of the content. We handle this with the fetcher and we'll prefetch the next section, so it's almost instant when we actually request it. Sounds good. Sometimes, though, when a user has already been through the whole document, we need to bundle every section of the content all at once in the loader. That's when we run into issues on Fly, where the app is hosted. A shared CPU, the app systemically crashes, not enough memory. We switch to a dedicated CPU with 2 gigs of RAM. It seems to do the job for now, but we're worried about scalability. What is it going to be like when there are hundreds of users doing this at the same time? I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas on this. I'm thinking maybe we're doing it the wrong way. Maybe we need to pre-bundle the MDX during the build and serve it as static content. Maybe Fly.io isn't suited for this use case, or maybe there's it's fine. We just need a lot of money for Fly. Yeah, this is a great question. Your solution is caching. 100% it's caching. You should not be running MDX Bundler on a request at all, except maybe the first request, but you could actually preemptively run MDX Bundler. Yeah, my website, every single page, every content page, including this one, actually, yeah, maybe not emailing Kent. Oh, I'm on a slow 3G network. There we go. So every one of these pages, well, not that one actually, and not this one. Better example will probably be some of these one-off pages like, yeah, my mission. That one is MDX Bundler. You know what, the best example is probably the blog. So all of these are all MDX. You notice it loads like ridiculously fast. And that is because it's all, except for this one. What's going on here? That's because it's all cached with inside of Redis. And actually today, I'm going to be working on moving that into SQLite, which may be faster as well. So that is what I would suggest is adding caching. And somebody took my caching implementation and open sourced it and made it better. And it's called Cachified. So I would suggest using this and caching it either because you're on fly, you could just cache it in an LRU cache, which I think is referenced in here. So you could just use the LRU cache to just cache it in memory. The problem with this is every time you restart the server, you got to build up that cache again. Or you could use SQLite. That's what I'm going to be doing. Or you could use Redis, which is what I do now. But all of these work with whatever strategy you're implementing. So they've got adapters for LRU cache, Redis, and Redis 3. And I'm probably going to build an adapter for SQLite, and somebody can create a thing for that. So that is your solution. Cache the thing. You probably can't use HTTP caching because your loader returns different things based on various whatevers. So you won't be able to HTTP cache this, and it's also like a segment within the greater app, which probably has user specific stuff. That's why I don't use HTTP caching. But yeah, a cache should make this problem go away. If for some reason you need to blow away the cache completely and start from scratch, then the problem might surface for a little bit while it's warming up the cache again. And so if that is something that happens a lot, then you may need to think of some affordances for that, like throttling or something like that. But yeah, and one other thing that I'll mention on my site, what's cool about this is I've got, nope, not pull requests, actions. I have this refresh content action that will run anytime I make a content change, and it actually just makes a request to my live running server, and it says, hey, these content paths have changed. And so then my live running server will be like, oh, those have changed. Well, let me go and refresh the cache for that content. And so my users never actually hit the page of content that isn't already cached. And you'll notice that this thing took all of like 6 seconds to run. So as soon as I push any changes to my content, in 6 seconds, users are starting to see the latest content. So what you're doing is great. Keep it up. You just add a layer of caching and your problems will go away. Good luck. Okay, yes, we do have office hours. Hey, I've caught up. Great. So now we're just with what we've asked today. What's the best way to make money through code? Oh, I don't know. Who's the richest person in the world? Elon Musk. He built he built PayPal, made a lot of money doing that. So I guess build PayPal. I don't know. It's I'm mostly being facetious here, Siblis. So I really don't know. I cannot tell you. So what I would suggest is try to find something that both can make you enough money to sustain your life and also bring you satisfaction in the work itself. That for me is education, and so that's why I do what I do. Sorry, that's not really a great answer, but that's all I've got for you. Sorry. All right, Matt, I'd like to know the implementation detail on how you cache your blog posts in Redis. Oh, I was just barely talking about that. The CI/CD script is quite stunning. A bit lost on the refresh cache part, so I can pull this up for you and I can kind of walk you through it. So let's go to, and I'm kind of in the middle of a big refactor of my site, but hopefully that won't impact us here. So if we go to other refresh cache, or let's see, I think refresh change content. Here we go. So this runs on, or actually, you know what? A better place to start would be in our workflow for this refresh content. Here we go. So this runs on CI. Whenever I push to main, this will run. It's going to check out the repo, at least 50 commits back, because we need to actually get some commit history. And yep, set up node, and then it's going to run this script. With this refresh cache secret. We'll see what that is in a second. So we have our refresh changed content. You know what? This just occurred to me. I need to set this value on my new site. I'll fix that later. Okay, refresh change content. So that is this file. Here's my go function. So we just run that. First thing it does is it fetches JSON from the running site. So this refresh commit sha.json. So you can find that file inside of app routes refresh commit sha brackets to escape the .json. So that's how that gets set up. So sha info, we get this from the Redis cache. So I have a Redis server that's running, and I say I need to get the refresh cache commit sha key. So this is part of our action here, which we're going to jump into. But we need that. Where is that refresh cache? Hold on a second. Oh yeah, I just renamed it just to be more explicit. I don't know why I did that. But yeah, so this is just the key in Redis that stores information about our current cached SHA. So the git commit where everything behind that has been cached. If anything ahead of that shows up, then we know we need to take everything between the cached commit and the commit that we're pushing, find all the changes between those to know what files have changed, so we know which pieces of content need to be refreshed. That's what we're doing here. So we get the SHA info, stringify that, and then send that as a response. I'm not sure why I don't use JSON here. I might have written this before JSON was a thing, but I think that's wrong. I'm not sure why I'm not just using JSON. Probably could just use JSON there. Okay, anyway, so that is the refresh commit SHA JSON. So I get that SHA info. If there's not a compare SHA, then we're going to, let's see, I get the build info. So I actually, here, let's look at this too. So we'll pull up both of these. So this is the last time I had something cached was at this commit, and that's when it was. This is the last time I actually rebuilt the server. So this commit will most of the time be later than this one, because I don't always rebuild the site every change I make. That's part of the optimization is I can not rebuild the site if all I'm doing is a content change. So I only rebuild the site if I'm doing a code change. Okay, so with that established, we've got our, if for some reason I can't retrieve this, then I'm going to fall back to the last build, the SHA of the last build, and we'll just take everything from the last build, because I know that the last build should have all the latest content. Then we'll get the compare SHA from that, and we'll just say, hey, I couldn't find a compare SHA for the last time we refreshed, so I'm just going to use the build SHA. Okay, so if I don't have a compare SHA, then there's nothing to compare to. I don't know what to refresh. I won't do anything. I guess I could refresh everything, but that would be problematic, as actually we just talked about. ESBuild and MDX Bundler are going to be slow. If I had to rebuild, occasionally I actually do this. If I ever need to rebuild all of the content on my site, that does take a lot of memory and time, and I probably need to throttle it better. Anyway, so hopefully this never happens. It doesn't really in practice. So once I know the SHA to compare to, I need to take the current SHA, which is passed to me by the GitHub action. So this is going to pass the SHA that is currently being built on GitHub. So the one I just pushed, the latest commit that I just pushed. So it's going to take that and compare it to the one that was the last time I refreshed, and find all of the files that were changed between those two. You can dive into the implementation there. It's kind of wacky, but yeah, fun stuff. So it's going to find all the things that were changed between those two. This is just running on the GitHub action. I'm not actually touching my server anymore. So we get all the changes, and then we only filter down to the ones that are in content. Okay, so I just find the changes that are of the content, and if there are content changes, then I want to go and refresh the cache. Now I have a cache timeout on all of my content. So after like a week or 30 days. Eventually, we're just going to go and refresh it proactively. So eventually the content will get updated. This is an optimization to update it quicker. So we are going to say post refresh cast. So this is going to send a post request to my live server, my running server, to say, hey, we need to update some of the content. And so I send it all of the content paths that need to be updated. And I also send it the commit SHA so that when that update is successful, it can update the latest commit so that the next time this runs, we get the last time we refreshed. That's all that this thing does. So now for this post refresh cache, this is going to call, this was actually, yeah, we don't need to do it this way anymore. I could change this. You got to keep in mind that my site was built before resource routes were a thing and various other things. So we got to, some things are not quite right. But anyway, eventually my that post request is going to make it into this action function. So first off, we're going to double check that the refresh cache secret is the same. So that's where this refresh cache secret came from. It's so that my GitHub action can talk to my server, and my server will just ignore anybody else who wants to try and hit this API and cause my server to use a lot of memory or something. Because this could trigger a lot of memory to be run. If you don't match, then I'm going to rickroll you. That's basically what that's about. Okay, so we're going to get the request JSON body, and then I have this set SHA in Redis that I do in a couple of places. So yeah, so for each of the keys, each of the pieces of content, I'm going to delete the cache. Yeah, let's see, keys and body and its array. We're going to delete the cache. Why? Oh, right. Yeah. So we just at the beginning we delete them all. If keys in body and body.keys, I can't remember. I think this is for a specific use case, and I can't remember what that one's for. Keys. Oh, yeah. So this is so I can hit this with specific cache keys that I just want to delete. Yeah, I probably shouldn't update the SHA in Redis in that case. Maybe. Anyway, that's probably fine. Maybe. So then we have our content pass. So for all the content pass, and that's what we're doing here. Let's just look keys. Looks like I do. Oh, yeah, that's for local development, actually. So yeah, you don't need to worry about that. That's just local development uses this code path. Should probably write a comment for that. Anyway, so for the content paths, we're gonna first we create this array for the content paths that are being refreshed, and the only reason that is useful is so that we can send a response that tells them what paths we just refreshed, as well as doing some pre-optimization for let's see, no, that's wrong. Oh, there's if a blog content paths to change, let's update. Oh, right. Yeah, so we also use that because if I added a new blog post, my /blog page needs to add a new card for that blog. So I need to update the, I have a cache for that list of blog posts because that actually takes a lot to generate, because you need to get the title out of the MDX and the description. I think I also do the read time, lots of stuff actually for that blog page. So I check if any of the refreshed content starts with blog, then we're going to update that list. And then same thing for our list of pages as well. So that's what that's all about. Yeah, so we have different different things that are cached for different pieces of content. So for blogs and pages, that's going to be MDX. And so we force a refresh on the MDX page that will trigger the server to update that in our cache. For the workshops, and get workshops for testimonial, YAML, we do that. Talks, we do that. And credits, we do that. So that's how that all works. And then we send, we update the SHA in Redis. So the next time this runs, we have the latest cached SHA, and then we return JSON to let us know. And that's why in here, you can see we have the content change request finished, and here's the response, has the message and all that. So that is how the refresh cache works. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, there you go. Okay, can you make your Epic website open source? I want to learn how to build a paid course. I think you may have emailed me about this, and I'm afraid I cannot. I'm not going to do that. Sorry. It's first of all, it's not mine. I didn't build it. I don't work on it, so I wouldn't. It wouldn't be right for me to do that anyway. I don't own it. And second of all, there's. I'm not going to say it's like proprietary. And actually, you know what? Hold on. I actually do have something for you. Skill recordings products. So there are a bunch of courses here. I was going to say that, like, I don't know, they may have reasons that they don't want it open sourced, but they actually are open sourcing everything now. I don't think Epic React is in here yet, but apps, here we go. We've got the KCD bundle. So this site is on there. And of course, like a bunch of others by other creators. But yeah, testing JavaScript and Epic React were created before they were working on this. Epic Web is in here also. So there you go. You can take a look at that. Okay. Yeah, answer this. How does Remix make money? Well, Remix itself does not. So just stay tuned, though. There's some really exciting developments that are really good for Remix's sustainability, but I am not at liberty to tell you. But it is exciting. Stay tuned. Amir, my question is probably unusual. You always are very nice to help us out with everything and stuff. Oh, that's nice of you to say. So how can we help you? Oh, is there a thing I need help with? Well, that's really kind of you, Amir. You know, the helping out in this community is a big help. There are more people in here than I can help myself. And so, yeah, that is helpful. Helping out in, yeah, I don't know, like I guess my open source stuff, if you want to help with some of that. I'm not a great maintainer of lots of my open source projects anymore. That can be helpful. I don't know. I don't typically like to accept like money or favors or anything from people as thank yous for the stuff that I do, because I do sell stuff, and so it just feels better to create free stuff. Like the stuff I sell subsidizes the free stuff that I do, and I really enjoy doing this. So as far as like ongoing projects or things like that, not really. The thing is that if you there are some things that I would like to do to improve my website or different things like this, but if it's not a priority for me, then it probably is difficult for me to get around to reviewing any suggested improvements, which just adds more burden. So sometimes you might think that you're helping a maintainer by making this big pull request to solve a problem, but that if they don't personally need that and you're just doing it for somebody else to be nice or something, then that actually ends up being a bit of a not a hindrance, but like just a burden, because now they have to go and review it. So it's not always, I mean, if I can get around to it, I definitely appreciate it. But yeah, anyway, that's just some things to think about. As far as helping me out, help other people. That helps the world. So that's very nice of you to ask, Amir. I appreciate that. Thank you. Nile, email a question on your email. Please check email, answer question. I'm not sure when you asked this question, but it's very difficult. I get many emails, and so just saying that you sent me an email won't help me answer your question, because I'm mostly an inbox zero type of person. So I'm looking at my inbox right now. I do see your question. And I'm guessing you emailed this to me because you don't want people to see it. So I'll leave it on this screen. You're just asking which logo looks good. And I am super duper not a designer person, so I cannot answer, or you shouldn't listen to me. But if I had to choose between these two, I'd choose the one on the left, the one that's titled logo.png. The other one is logso.png. I prefer the one that's more blue. But please ignore me when it comes to anything with design. Here, I guess I'll respond. I prefer the more blue one. But yeah, don't listen to me. I don't know anything. Okay, Alex, I'm trying to figure out how to build a third-party widget that clients can embed to their websites. That's fun. I built a simple stock quote widget that attaches to any div element with a class name WT Finance widget. I would like to pass a symbol prop attached to data symbol attribute. I use Parcel to bundle and host my files on GitHub. And using this thing from JS Deliver to pull the JS file into script tag, which I include in root TSX in a Remix app. However, my divs with class name equal yada yada do not render anything inside my Remix app. Am I missing something? And is this the right approach? Here's the tutorial following. The widget takes a symbol, makes an API call to retrieve the stock price for the given symbol and displays. So sounds like you've built this thing. Yeah, here's your widget. Okay, and your index, your entry here. Oh, this looks compiled. Okay, so I'm guessing maybe it's in the source. Okay, and then on startup, you say WT Finance widget. Okay, cool. And then just here, query selector. There it is. There's your stuff right there where you say widget.render. Okay, cool. So that all looks fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. Do not render anything inside my Remix app. I'm unsure why that would be. Yeah, I can't think of a reason. One thing it could be is I don't see anything in here that says let's wait until the document has finished loading. And so if you put this script tag at the top of the page before those class names show up, then this is going to run. It's going to see there's nothing in the document yet. It won't find any class names. And then the rest of it will run. Those class names will show up and nothing will happen. So I think the Twitter widget actually has this same issue where you have that script tag. You need to make sure that script tag doesn't execute until after the document is finished loading. But here's another interesting thing. What if the document is finished loading and then I click a button that pops open a thing that has a WT Finance widget, or I navigate to a page that has a WT Finance widget? You need to expose some probably global function that people can call to say, look for those class names again and initialize those. So that's the Twitter widget does this, where you have a global variable that you just call at any time to say, go trigger your thing again. So first, the reason it's probably not working is I'm guessing you're putting the class name or the script tag at the top. And so that loads before the document is finished loading. So you can just stick this inside of a document. Oh man, on document content ready event. I can't remember what that event is called. Back in the day, I would always just use jQuery for that. But yeah, there's a event. It's easy to set up. And so I would put this inside of that. And then I would also, I would actually put this inside of a function, and I would call that inside of that on content ready or whatever. And then I would also allow people to call that function themselves whenever they like. So hopefully that answers your question. Good luck, Alex. Okay, great. And I got through it all, and we're over time anyway. So I'm going to say we're done. So thanks everybody for coming. I think that was hopefully helpful for some folks. I am going to be going live here in a little bit to do my regular live streaming. Going to be working on finishing my migration of my website to SQLite with Lightstream, LightFS. It's going to be sweet. And yeah, getting off of both Redis and Postgres is the ultimate goal there. Just to make the site more reliable and still have the performance that I'm looking for. It's pretty cool. It's kind of fun. You can watch my videos yesterday, and I will be working on it some more today. So thanks, everybody. Hope you have a nice day, and we'll see you in the future.